Hindu newspaper, and today's article is a controversial debate on the forest conservation bill. Now, forest conservation or anything related to that doesn't really seem important, right? ऐसा लगता है कि forest conservation bill से क्या ही आ जाएगा? What would come from a forest conservation bill? And how is it important? Ecology, ecosystem, and all of that. But let me tell you that consortium prides itself on the variety of questions they offer. So if it is a topic that you might think is not important, would definitely be there in your exam, and for that reason only forest conservation bill and all the controversy related to it becomes a very relevant and a very important topic. So make sure that you like this video and make sure that you attend this class. किसी भी situation में ये session जो है उसे हमेशा करें, ये बहुत important है. इसमें we are directly discussing the newspaper and the aspects of newspaper in a way that you would not or never do yourself. So this is a bi-weekly series we conducted twice a week, once on Friday on the portal, on the app, and once on Sunday on YouTube, right? So isse you get a lot of information, plus you get to know about the most important things that are going on. I generally tend to take up the most important thing and also the things that I deem very relevant for your legal reasoning section. So this is very important, classified as very important, right? अगर legal reasoning नहीं तो GK current affairs में तो ये होगा ही या होना ही चाहिए. No, you're not late. Welcome everyone. Good evening. Good evening. How are you all? So let us start. Before we start, you should know that we have launched a comprehensive course for CLAT 24 and CLAT 25 as well. And we have been rapidly launching batches for both the years 24 and 25. Now, the batch is comprehensive because of the variety of things that it offers to you. It is not only preparing you for CLAT, it is preparing you for all the other non-CLAT entrances as well. And right from the day one that you start your preparation till the day you take your exam, this course caters to your needs, your requirements at every step. And that is the reason why it is comprehensive. So if you want to know what all of it is about, I would request you to download the app, log into the app, and see for yourself. You get a 3-day trial. Now the central idea, let's discuss it from the beginning. The central idea starts from what happened after independence. Now you know that as soon as we got independent, the idea of development was the primary thing in the Indian subcontinent or in the minds of Indian government, that we need to develop. Obviously, there was no technology, there was no technological advancement, there was no production, there were no factories, there was no such thing as industry, and we were primarily dependent on the nature for its resources or agriculture. But when a country or any economy is largely dependent on nature, everything becomes unpredictable. You need to have technology corresponding to your efforts, otherwise बहुत सारी difficulty आती है life में, right? Oh my God, 𝗟𝗲𝗴𝗀, seriously, you got Jamia rank 1. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations, buddy. I mean, I'm really, really proud of you. A wonderful job. Rank 1 Jamia. Wow. Out of so many students, that's amazing. This rank will, actually take you a long way. Anyway, anywhere you appear for an internship or a placement, always mention this rank, always. This should be the highlight of your resume, and it will get you places where even a national university student can't. So congratulations, buddy. Are you a boy or a girl? Mohammed Shahnawaz Sohali, Jamia. Of course. I'm really glad that, I could contribute to your marvelous achievement. And please, if you can, leave us a tiny bit of details of yourself so that, we can talk to you and understand how they give you a proper accolade for your terrific achievement. So if you want, you can directly contact us on the BYJU'S exam prep Instagram handle. I'll just tell you क्या handle है वो. आप हमें directly DM कर सकते हैं और आप को हम प्रॉपरली कंग्रेचुलेट करना चाहेंगे. इवन आई वुड लाइक टू स्पीक विद यू. अच्छा सुहेल है, वो सुहाली पढ़ लिया मैंने. Okay, Suhail, of course. Sorry, Shahnawaz Suhail. I read Suhali for some reason. चश्मा तो पहन रखा है मैंने. Of course, you need to buckle up. It's buckle up. You need to buckle up for a competitive preparation. And when you do buckle up properly, it is very, very unlikely that you would fail. So do contact us. I would love to speak with you sometime. Okay, so now let us get back to our session. Now, after independence, like I said, the development, industrial, technological, all kinds of developments was a primary objective in the government's mind, right? And the Indian or the Indian subcontinent, the dominion of India was primarily forest or agricultural land. There was not much going on the land, right? But even after we got independent, the development started happening, and the lands were cleared, the trees started felling, and the reason was to build up factories, build up industries, and all that happening so soon that the Supreme Court decided to intervene during 1996. However, it happened later on, but there were several acts, there were several conservation bills, amendments, etc. Since 1927, even before we got independent, trees हमेशा से important है, and everyone understands this requirement. So, even before we got independent, there were forest conservation bills, and there were areas that were listed as forests. So there are, forest is an entire ecosystem, and it is a habitation for various ecosystems, not just one. There are multiple ecosystems existing in a single habitat. अब उस पूरे के पूरे habitat को uproot कर देना, forest को हटा देना just because आपको factory setup करनी है, what kind of impact would that have on the wildlife or on the wilderness? And keeping that in mind, the forests, most of the forests or many forests were they were an untouched zone. They were not allowed to be cut, they were not allowed to be cleared, and that's how it all started. Now, there were many forest areas that were not included in the list of forests, right? Forests जो थे भी पूरी list आ गई. Foreign Conservation Bill जो था, they released an entire list, and they listed the areas, the plots, etc., declaring them as forests. And if a particular area was listed as forest, it could not be cleared, right? But the list had a lot of loopholes. The conservation bill had a lot of loopholes because some areas were left out. There were forests, standing forest with proper ecosystems, a very dense wilderness, but they were still not included in the category of forests. Now, in 1996, Supreme Court came up with a direction that the forests cannot be cleared. You cannot just cut trees recklessly. And the Forest Conservation Act will apply to everything. Even the forests that are not included in the category, that are not listed as forest, would still be a forest if it satisfies the definition of a forest. In simple words, forest का clearing बहुत ही वाइड स्केल पे होने लगा, बहुत ही ज़्यादा. एक पूरी की पूरी लिस्ट आई थी कंजर्वेशन बिल में, जहाँ पे फॉरेस्ट में लिस्ट कर दिए गए थे, मतलब उस बिल लिस्ट में कैटेगरीज आ गई थी, पूरी की पूरी लेबलिंग आ गई थी कि ये एरिया फॉरेस्ट एरिया, इसको नहीं हटा सकते, ये जो एरिया है ये फॉरेस्ट एरिया है, इतने एरिया तक, इतने स्क्वायर यार्ड्स तक ये फॉरेस्ट है, इसको नहीं हटा सकते, ये डिस्ट्रिक्ट होगी, ये प्लॉट नंबर होगा, ये एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. लेकिन बहुत सारे एरियाज फॉरेस्ट एरियाज में नहीं लाए गए. लिस्ट में बहुत सारे घने जंगलों को इंक्लूड नहीं किया गया, बहुत सारे रीजन से. अब जब 1996 में इतनी तेजी से जंगल क्लियर होने लगे, बस्तियां आने लगी, शहर बसने लगे, पूरे के पूरे जंगल हटाए जाने लगे. Namra, we shall discuss it at the end of the class if you don't mind. I shall definitely address your question, but towards the end. Is that okay? Right. So 1996 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट came up with a declaration with an order that अगर एक एरिया को फॉरेस्ट लिस्ट में इंक्लूड नहीं भी किया गया है तो भी वो जंगल ही है, और अगर वो डिक्शनरी डेफिनेशन जो दे रखी है एक जंगल की उसको सेटिस्फाई कर देता है तो भले ही वो लिस्ट में ना हो, वो फॉरेस्ट है और आप उसे नहीं क्लियर कर सकते. रिकॉर्डेड लिस्ट से किसी चीज का और का लेना देना नहीं है. जून 22 में गवर्नमेंट अमेंडेड द फॉरेस्ट कंजर्वेशन रूल्स टू प्रपोज अ mechanism that allows the developers to raise plantations over lands on which FC is not applicable. So if a person starts growing plantation and starts creating a habitation that resembles a forest, that area would not be included in the forest conservation bill. But if he starts doing it, ऑटोमेटिकली उस पर फॉरेस्ट कंजर्वेशन बिल अप्लाई हो जाएगा और जो पेड़ उसने और जो प्लांटेशन उसने ग्रो किया है वो इस बिल की वजह से प्रोटेक्ट हो जाएगा। और जितने भी कोई भी अगर उसके राइट को वायलेट कर रहा है या कोई भी उस पर पब्लिक एक्सेस डिमांड कर रहा है उसके ऊपर एक सिविल लाइबिलिटी अक्रू कर जाएगी। तो लोग जो पेड़ उगा रहे हैं, लोग जो पेड़ों को कटने से बचा रहे हैं, जो प्लांटेशन को, वेजिटेशन को, फॉरेस्टेशन को फैसिलिटेट कर रहे हैं, उनको किसी तरह का प्रोटेक्शन मिल जाए, इस तरह का मैकेनिज्म 2022 के फॉरेस्ट कंजर्वेशन रूल्स में लाया गया। एवरीथिंग क्लियर? I am so glad that you're watching it. If only it was more popular, like there are so less students that attend this session on YouTube. Of course, I have a good number of students on the app. लेकिन ये important session है guys. I would urge you to forward this session so that people can actually take advantage. There are students who are not really aware of what is going on, such marvelous sessions going on, and they would benefit from it. So you definitely should forward these kinds of sessions so that more and more people watch, right? And if it becomes more popular, I would be able to include more and more content. Very good, Alok. It is actually absolutely correct. What Alok has just defined is absolutely correct. Bill and act, that is the difference. अब उसने कह दिया है तो मैं समझा देती हूँ। देखो ऐसा होता है, whenever there is a law that is coming, either in a state legislature, of course, I mean, I take a different topic on the app and on the portal. So even if you're a subscriber, even if you're a paid student, you should attend this. आपको ये कंटेंट में दिया जाएगा, लेकिन अगर आप इसे मुझसे समझ लेते हैं तो इससे अच्छा क्या होगा? Even if you get a class like that in future, or if you get content like this, if you're able to listen to the content that you are supposed to read, what can be better than that? So you should definitely attend it, right? Both on the app, on the YouTube. दोनों दिन अलग अलग होते हैं। फ्राइडे को मैंने ऐप पे ये नहीं पढ़ाया था, कुछ और पढ़ाया था, तो मैं I never repeat. So you should attend. Anyhow, so bill. Whenever a bill or whenever a law is passed, there is an entire process before which it is passed. So there is first a proposal, right? So there is a particular ministry which proposes a law कि there should be a law, we need to address this situation by creating a law on it, and that basically is passed as a proposal. Now after the proposal is passed, or after a proposal has been made in the session, there are various debates and discussions that start afterwards. Obviously whenever there is a law that is passed, बहुत सारे ambit होते हैं, बहुत सारे facets होते हैं जो clear करने पड़ते हैं, जैसे कि किसी और बिल के साथ conflict तो नहीं है, किसी state बिल के साथ conflict तो नहीं है, किसी और ministry के साथ या किसी और portfolio के साथ conflict तो नहीं है, कहीं fundamental right affect तो नहीं हो रहा, constitutionally valid है कि नहीं, किस तरह की प्रॉब्लम आएंगी एग्जीक्यूशन में, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में, तो ये सारी की सारे डिबेट्स और डिस्कशंस होते रहते हैं। फाइनली जब सारे के सारे डिबेट्स डिस्कशंस होने के बाद एक फाइनल प्रपोजल आता है और उस प्रपोजल पे सब अग्री कर जाते हैं कि हाँ ये सही है, अब कोई झंझट नहीं है, इसको लॉ बनाया जा सकता है, तब शुरू होती है वोटिंग। अगर वो लोकसभा में पास हुआ है, लोकसभा में उसे प्रपोज किया गया है, तो लोकसभा में वोटिंग होती है। डिपेंडिंग ऑन द काइंड ऑफ बिल इट इज, depending on the nature of the bill, depending on the subject on which it is proposed, it is determined whether there would be a simple majority or a special majority voting. So if there is a special majority voting, 2/3 of the maximum strength of the Lok Sabha has to be present and vote in favor of the bill. If it is voted for, then it goes to the Rajya Sabha. The same thing happens in the Raj Sabha. अगर एक proposal दोनों houses में in favor vote कर दिया जाता है, तो वो proposal bill बन जाता है, अभी भी वो लॉ नहीं बना है। जब वो वोटिंग उस पर हो जाती है तो वो बिल प्रेसिडेंट के पास जाता है, प्रेसिडेंट उस पर अपनी सहमति देते हैं, असेंट करते हैं और वो बिल एक्ट बन जाता है और यही एक्ट हम पर लागू हो जाता है और इन एक्ट्स को ही हम लॉज कहते हैं। ये है डिफरेंस बिल में और एक्ट में, ठीक है। चलो moving on. Now, what is Forest Amendment Bill 2023? This is an overview. The Forest Conservation Act 1980 safeguards Indian forest lands from unauthorized non-forestry use and allows compensation in case of diversion. Now, unless you scare people about a penalty, see, there are mafias and there are, you know, goons and people who have a very huge influence, who are trying to accumulate as much land as possible for their needs in the garb or under the couture of development, and they do so by clearing the forest, by obtaining a land that is supposed to be a forest. अब यहाँ पे there is no penalty, there is no civil action, but the new amendment proposes a civil action. There is a huge penalty if you are, you know, found violating the Forest Conservation Act. So if a person who even so much so as enters the forest without clearance, for, you know, without justification, is actually liable for a certain penalty. जो पुराने amendment थे, they, you know, aimed at protecting the forest, like the primary objective was to protect the forest. जितने भी Forest Conservation Bill 1927, फिर 1986 में भी कुछ amendments आए, 1986 के बाद 96 में भी कुछ proposals आए, तो इन सारे के सारे amendments का there was this primary objective that forests need to be protected, trees need to be protected. But now the amendment is not really to protect the forest, and that is where the controversy is. That is why it is so popular. Nobody really cares about what forests are there. I am sure you don't even know how many forests are there on the Indian subcontinent, or how much land in India is covered with forest. किसी को नहीं पता होता. Nobody really cares. So nobody really cares about these amendments. But this amendment particularly has stirred up a certain controversy, and the controversy is due to the fact that the amendment is not really aiming at protecting the forest. It is actually only aiming to remove the ambiguities, to remove the loopholes that might be there. बस लैंड किस तरह से यूज होना चाहिए, लैंड को क्लियर किया जा सकता है या नहीं, फॉरेस्ट को गिराया जा सकता है या नहीं, इस चीज को एक्सपैंड करने के लिए और क्लैरिफाई करने के लिए ये बिल आया है. फॉरेस्ट को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए नहीं आया है. ऑब्वियसली अमेंडमेंट में एम्फेसिस है कि भाई ट्री कवर सबसे ज़्यादा हो, कार्बन सिंक्स, नेशनल सिक्योरिटी, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, लाइवलीहुड अपॉर्चुनिटीज, सारी की सारी चीज़ों को बैलेंस करके, प्लस देयर आर कम्युनिटीज दैट लिव इन द फॉरेस्ट, डिपेंडेंट ऑन फॉरेस्ट फॉर देयर सस्टेनेंस. तो इन सब चीज़ों को बैलेंस करके चलना है और फिर हम डिसाइड करेंगे कि वो एरिया फॉरेस्ट की कैटेगरी में आना ही चाहिए. I definitely would continue this. Don't worry about it. It is going to be a permanent series. Now, these are the key features of the amendment, guys. I would request you to note them down. Inclusion and exclusion of land. The bill amends the Forest Conservation Act 1980 to make it applicable to land notified as forest under the Indian Forest Act 1927. Like I said, 1927 से हमारे पास forest के bills हैं. Or in the government records after the 1980 Act came into effect, land converted to non-forest use before December 12, 1996 will not fall under the Act's purview. In simple terms, all the forests that were listed as forest in 1927 Act, all the forests that were given the status of forest later on in 1980 and then in 1996 were not later on included. उनको बाद में forest की category में include नहीं किया गया. ये एक्ट आया है इन सारे फॉरेस्ट को इंक्लूड करने के लिए, ठीक है. लेकिन 1996 में जो लैंड है, जो जिनको जो जंगल हैं लेकिन जंगल की तरह उन्हें यूज़ नहीं किया जा रहा किसी वजह से, बॉर्डर के बहुत क्लोज हैं, शहर के बहुत क्लोज हैं, हाईवे के बहुत क्लोज हैं, इन सारे एरियाज़ को विच आर फुल फ्लेजेड जंगल्स, लैंड्स को ये अमेंडमेंट कवर नहीं करता. जो ऑलरेडी लिस्टेड लैंड्स थे एज फॉरेस्ट बाय सम और द अदर एक्ट्स आर कवर्ड बाय दिस अमेंडमेंट, बट द लैंड्स व्हिच वर नॉट deemed as forest but should have been deemed as forest are still not covered by this amendment. Everyone clear? This is a little confusing. तो लेकिन I am hoping that you understand. जितने भी एक्ट्स आए हैं 27 के, 1980 के, 1986 के, 1996 के, उन सब में एक नई लिस्ट आई है जो बढ़ती चली गई है. ये एरिया भी फॉरेस्ट है, ये एरिया भी फॉरेस्ट है, ये एरिया भी फॉरेस्ट है. ये जो नया अमेंडमेंट आया है ये उन सब एरियाज को फॉरेस्ट की कैटेगरी में रख देता है. राइट. पुराने अमेंडमेंट्स वो पुराने एक्ट्स भी जो थे, जो हटा दिए गए, जो रिपील हो गए क्योंकि वो ब्रिटिश के थे या जो भी कुछ था, उन्होंने भी जिन एरियाज को फॉरेस्ट डिक्लेयर किया उनको भी ये एक्ट कवर कर लेता है. लेकिन जो एरियाज कवर नहीं हुए 1996 के सेंसस के बाद, उसके जो स्टैटिस्टिक प्रिपेयर हुआ, ज्योग्राफिकल जो स्टैटिस्टिक्स प्रिपेयर होते हैं कि भाई ये एरिया फॉरेस्ट है और ये नहीं है, 1996 के बाद जितना भी एरिया छोड़ दिया गया, भले ही वो जंगल था, भले ही वो फॉरेस्ट एरिया था, उसमें ट्री कवर बहुत एक्सपेंसिव था, वो एरियाज क्योंकि वो हाईवे के बहुत नज़दीक हैं या किसी गाँव के नज़दीक हैं या बॉर्डर के नज़दीक है, उनको इस वजह से फॉरेस्ट की कैटेगरी में लेकर ही नहीं आया गया. प्रॉब्लम यह है कि वो अमेंडमेंट भी उन एरियाज को फॉरेस्ट की कैटेगरी में नहीं ला रहा है, विच इज नॉट अ गुड थिंग. अगर आप उन्हें फॉरेस्ट की कैटेगरी में नहीं लाते हो तो फिर उनको प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए कोई लेजिस्लेशन नहीं है, और एक बहुत बड़ा ट्री कवर बस इसलिए चला जाएगा क्योंकि एक्ट ने उस ट्री कवर को प्रोटेक्शन नहीं दिया. पढ़ लें पहले. Exemption. Certain types of land are exempted from the act, including the land within 100 kilometers of India's border. If a land is within 100 kilometers of India's border to any country, whether it is Bangladesh or Pakistan or any other country, Nepal वगैरह, if it is within the 100 kilometers area and it is a forest, it is not included in the category of forest. Why? Because they think that for the purpose of national security, for creating a proper infrastructure, roadside amenities, the security protocols, etc., we cannot really have a tree cover, because a tree cover gives refugees, people, illegal migration, what should I say, a camouflage kind of a thing, which we cannot allow for security and national reasons. Of course, understood. If there is a land which is very close to roadside, you need to, remove a certain cover ताकि roadside facilities आ सकें. Garage, hospital takes up a huge area. Garage, hospitals, or restaurant, eateries, petrol pumps, etc. So you need to give that much benefit of doubt also. So if there is a land clearing that is required because of a close highway or something, it needs to be cleared. So that is also not included. अगर एक जंगल हाईवे के बहुत करीब है तो उसको जंगल की कैटेगरी में ही नहीं रखा है. If there is a forest which is close to a dwelling, a city or a village or any habitation, or have a human dwelled residence or anything, that is also not included in the category of forest. That is the exemption. This is the key feature. Then the assignment of forest land, this is another key feature. The state government, if a state government wants anything to do with the forest, if it wants to allot the land to any private entity or to any entity for development purpose or whatever the reason is, they need to first acquire the consent of the central government. So basically through this amendment, the central government is completely taking over the charge of the Indian land. Completely, 100%. Permitted activities, there were very less activities that were permitted in the forest or near a forest. But this amendment has expanded the list. So tourism, or people using the resources, tree felling, using of forest resources, hunting, etc., all was prohibited. But this actually allows a lot of things, including establishments, checkposts, fencing, bridges. So even if there is a dam that needs to be constructed and the tree cover has to be removed, that can be done. Zoos, safaris, ecotourism facilities. Basically, they are trying to make a mockery out of nature. They want everything to be tourist accessible, which is not a good idea. It is never a good idea. But that is what this amendment is doing. अब कंट्रोवर्शियल पार्ट क्या है इस अमेंडमेंट के? पहले तो द concern of dilution. The critics have argued that the amendments that were there, Supreme Court, there was a judgment which is known as the 𝗟𝗲𝗴𝗹 judgment. In the 𝗟𝗲𝗴𝗹 judgment 1996, the Supreme Court, emphasized on the importance of forests and the tree cover, and it passed the judgment protecting the tree cover, urging the central government and the state government to take measures as to protect the forest areas, which is also a directive principle, right? But that 𝗟𝗲𝗴𝗹 judgment is completely, disregarded when it came to this amendment. The forest areas, like Supreme Court ने 𝗟𝗲𝗴𝗹 के judgment में साफ साफ कहा था कि अगर जंगल के जैसा कोई जगह है तो वो जंगल ही है, तुमने उसे लिस्ट में इंक्लूड किया नहीं किया उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता, वो जंगल है, वो जंगल ही रहेगा. लेकिन अमेंडमेंट ने उस एरिया को अभी भी इंक्लूड नहीं किया, और क्योंकि नहीं किया है तो फिर वो जंगल नहीं है. अब उसको कोई गिरा दे, उसको कोई हटा दे, उस पर कोई फैक्ट्री बना ले, उसको कोई उसको पूरा हटा के भूटानी और एटीएस अपना पूरा का पूरा बिल्डिंग और कमर्शियल कॉम्प्लेक्स बना दे, कोई नहीं रोक सकता उन्हें. और ये उस जजमेंट को डाइल्यूट कर देता है. ट्री कवर के प्रोटेक्शन के लिए, फॉरेस्टेशन को फैसिलिटेट करने के लिए जितने भी एनजीओ, जितनी भी एंटिटीज काम कर रही हैं, उनके एफर्ट्स को पूरी तरह से डिसरिगार्ड कर देता है ये अकेला अमेंडमेंट. यहाँ पे कंट्रोवर्सी है. Geographically sensitive areas, projects within 100 kilometers of international borders or line of control would no longer require forest clearance, which means that if the security or if there's a border close to a forest, 100 kilometers range, then if you need to clear that forest for any reason, then you can, and you do not require permission. So even if one wants to set up a factory within 100 kilometers of the border and he needs to clear out an entire jungle because of it, he can. Why? Because that area is not included in the forest list. That is also a concern, both from an environment point of view and the security point of view. You cannot just clear out a jungle. Jungle offers a camouflage to a lot of activities, illegal migration, refugees, etc. But it does offer a camouflage to the security also. The defense can utilize the forest resources in a vast manner to their advantage if they are smart, if they are trained that way. So instead of utilizing the resource, you're hell bent on removing that resource altogether, which is not a good idea. Then deemed forest and tourism. Central protection for deemed forest and restriction on activities like tourism, they would be compromised because they are allowing tourism, safaris, creating zoos or national parks within the forest. That is not right, and it affects the integrity of the forest a lot. Impact on forest cover. Exempting land near border areas for national security projects may adversely affect forest cover and wildlife in northeastern states which have high forest cover and are biodiversity hotspots. Potential adverse effects. Blanket exemptions from projects like zoos, ecotourism facilities and recognizance surveys may have negative consequences for forest, land and wildlife. अब तुमने कह दिया कि उनको forest clearance की जरूरत ही नहीं है. You are giving them a blanket protection. Like for whatever reason you are clearing the forest, you just don't need a permission. And that affects a lot of things. Blatantly giving people access to visit a forest, blatantly giving private entities access to create a zoo in the forest is like giving them an arbitrary permission to do whatever they want. And if they are allowed to do what they want, the forest will not exist. There won't be a single tree left on the planet. अगर तुम करने देते हो आदमियों को जो वो करना चाहते हैं. That's another concern. This is the opposition and criticism. Northeastern states, they are opposing it. They are objecting to the forest land being used for defense purposes without their consent, because obviously as soon as the forest is cleared for defense reasons and security reasons, the entire state or the area situated to that or area closer to that, sensitive zone or army habitation becomes a sensitive zone altogether. उनकी activities, उनकी daily लाइफ, उनका लाइफस्टाइल, उनकी हर चीज अफेक्ट हो जाती है क्योंकि वो आर्मी है वहां पे, क्योंकि डिफेंस सिक्योरिटी आ गई है वहां पे. एंड दैट इज समथिंग दैट दीज नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स आर नॉट in favor of. Environmental group concerns. Environmental organizations criticize the removal of central protection of deemed forest. Like I said, the forests which were not even in the list were deemed as forest if they fell in the definition. That is what the Supreme Court said in the 𝗟𝗲𝗴𝗪 judgment. But the amendment does not take that into consideration, and there are environmental organizations which are criticizing that step. Criticizing them on the basis कि आप उन areas को अपने benefit और profit के लिए utilize करना चाहते हो, which is not ideal. Name change controversy. The proposal to change the name of the act to वन संरक्षण एवं संवर्धन अधिनियम faced objections for being non-inclusive and excluding certain regions population. नेम की भी कंट्रोवर्सी, बहुत सारी कंट्रोवर्सी है, लेकिन ये 3 कंट्रोवर्सी है जिसके वजह से फॉरेस्ट कंजर्वेशन बिल अमेंडमेंट इतना ज़्यादा पॉपुलर हो गया है. So I hope I clarified everything. So guys, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this session. Let me tell you again, it is a bi-weekly thing every Friday on the app at 6 p.m. every Sunday on YT at 6 p.m. Legal analysis of the Hindu newspaper. Right, so if you haven't made notes, make sure to watch this video again and make notes. I am discussing the most important topics. क्या पता आपका पूरा का पूरा पेपर इन्हीं सेशन से आ जाए. You never know. Anyhow, so Alok has a question. What is Minister on State of Minister? Example, Minister of Information and Broadcasting, Anurag Thakur, Minister Aslavani. Ministers जो होते हैं, basically member of parliaments are allocated certain ministries, right? So not all member of parliaments or not all members of legislative assemblies are given portfolios. तो जो portfolios होते हैं, जो subjects होते हैं, वो state और center के basis पे होते हैं. You know, subject list होती है पूरी की पूरी. तो हर एक सब्जेक्ट के ऊपर एक मिनिस्ट्री होती है, एक मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट को वो मिनिस्ट्री दे दी जाती है. तो अगर वो स्टेट सब्जेक्ट के किसी पोर्टफोलियो को हेड कर रहे हैं तो वो स्टेट के मिनिस्टर हो गए, एमएलए हैं वो. लेकिन अगर वो किसी सेंट्रल लिस्ट के सब्जेक्ट के पे लॉ बनाने, मतलब उसके वो हेड कर रहे हैं, तो वो सेंट्रल मिनिस्टर हो गए, राइट. तो डिपेंड्स ऑन कि उनके पास कौन सा सब्जेक्ट आया है, स्टेट लिस्ट का आया है या सेंट्रल लिस्ट का आया है. So a state minister is a minister who is given the portfolio by the state government, and the central minister is the minister who is given the portfolio by the central government. Both are members of the legislative assembly and the parliament respectively. That is the difference. So make sure to like the video and subscribe the channel if you haven't already. You can follow us on Instagram at BYJU'S Exam Prep Law. You can like us on Facebook. You can join our Telegram channel and please download our app. That's it for today. I shall see you again very soon. तब तक सब अपना ख्याल रखेंगे. Bye bye and take care.